Right. So I want to let you know that the way that you guys think is inefficient. The way that you process your emotions versus your wants, needs, and desires is entirely flawed. Your patterns are entirely predictable, and we catch it. We also catch the hell for it. So you always have to be afraid of who's intelligent because they're going to figure it out. The more intelligent they are, the faster it'll happen. With me, it depends on the information that I have at hand. The opinions that I have, well, there's two different sides to every single one, and I tell them all. One of them is how I feel about the situation, and the other one is what I think about a situation. And both are important because that's how all of you think. I know what it is that drives you to emotional overload, and I'm going to tell you it's the same thing that drives dogs and rabbits and everything else into emotional overload when it comes to love, right? You know, that's chemical reaction in your brain. Okay? It's a chemical reaction in your brain. And in many cases, chemical reactions in other parts of your body. When people chew, all right, it releases positive endorphins. When somebody is afraid to touch people because they don't think right. That's personally how I look at most neurotypicals. They want to look at people who are autistic as stupid or retarded, and they want to think about people with Down syndrome as stupid or retarded. And they use those as insults. You must be autistic. You must be retarded. You must have Down syndrome. And you know, people with cerebral palsy are, for the most part, spared that, but they're not spared the treatment of it. Oh, that poor retard. No, stop right there. Fucking stop. As soon as you start thinking that way, they become vulnerable. Because then you don't understand them, because the thing is, it doesn't matter if they're autistic. It doesn't matter if they have Down syndrome. It doesn't matter if they're black or white or man or woman. We have the same fucking emotions, no matter who. All humans do. The few humans that don't, you can either trust to the ends of the earth, or you have to fear them greatly. And that's why people are so afraid of intelligent people. You never know which type you're going to get. Now, me, I learned a lot about speeches. There's a reason for this. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., all right, the reason that I picked him as someone to model my speeches after, although if you pay close attention, you notice that I pause a lot. That's because I have a stuttering problem, and I have explained that for years. The way that I got rid of it was through training. I put a belt around my chest, tightened it up, and inhaled, and then breathed out slowly and spoke as I was breathing until I ran out of air. Taking in short breaths as I needed so I didn't get overwhelmed, because my brain works way too fast for my mouth, for my body. So what I'm going to do, I want to explain to you how it works when you, and this is going to sound completely crazy until I put it down on paper and show you. There's a lot of things that I've told you I'm going to do, and there's a certain way to do it. The first way to do it is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to draw on a piece of paper, and it's going to make absolutely no sense to you. But there are going to be a lot of repetitive marks, and each one of them has a purpose. Each one of them means something in specific. And I'm going to go through and tell the stories of each of these things and why they're important. And with the stuff that I can get the evidence immediately, I'll get it as I make each of the videos, because the thing is, I'm going to make one video where I sit down and it's going to look like, well, kitten scratches and hieroglyphics. Not fancy by any means, but everything has its purpose and everything is a quick marker, because there is a long story involved. And this is just quick markers. You know, like I'll draw, if somebody was shot, I will draw an R, basically, for a gun, a lowercase r. Um, a lot of the reason that I have problems remembering names and dates is because my brain works so incredibly fast. When I make the video, um, my brain is going to be working too fast for my hand to draw it all. But I'm going to try to contain drawing it, which I'm going to do in front of you, but I'm not going to speak. Because if I speak, I will get overwhelmed immediately and I'll go off on tangents, and I can't speak it as fast as I can think it. I have to stop everything that I'm doing to speak it. My brain works too fast, according to a lot of people. No, it absolutely doesn't. It works that fast for a reason. And these are all things that are important. This entire story and how people's reactions, their predictable reactions, the predictable things that they'll do and say based on where they grew up, what their experiences were based on things like the color of their skin, or how far along in their family's lineage they were, or how long they've lived in an area. It's all environmental stuff that people learn. This is what we learn. And I believe that I want to say on the long side that it'll take me about an hour to draw out the hieroglyphic thing. You know, basically a bunch of place markers in place of a big long section of the story. It'll basically just be parts that show, oh, let's say, for example, there was a lot of people who were killed. All right. What they were killed with, who was there, or what group was there. That is actually important. But when you draw it out like that, like people look at it and they go, oh, dude, what, you got like alien fucking rays getting blasted into your head? No, no, I don't. That just represents a certain portion of my life. Like, let me give you an example here. You guys have tattoos, right? Now, both men and women, but women especially, you have tattoos, correct? Those of you who don't, you probably have pictures on your walls and things like that that remind you of people. They're special mementos that mean something. They mean something emotionally. And when you look at that item or that tattoo, you're not getting just a picture, all right? What you are getting is a flood of memories about that person. Or sometimes one or two or three, but you got stuff to do, so you continue on your way. A lot of people that I know that get really sad, they put their tattoos in the wrong place. They put it somewhere where they see it all the time, and they have constant reminders. They constantly trigger themselves. For me, I'm not going to get a tattoo about Natalie. There's a reason for that. I loved her very much, but as a friend, because she saved my life, and because she saved my life, I was able to save others. When the police bullied me to the point that I was suicidal when my back first got screwed up, and I lost my job, and I didn't get the vehicle that I had saved up for that I was only a day away from. Happy birthday to me. Had to throw a bunch of stuff in storage, and without a job, I couldn't afford the storage. I made it, though. A lot of people that are mad at me helped me with that, though. And a lot of those people I helped out when they were in a dire emergency as well. But how soon they forget. When they're angry because you told the truth. Oh man, no, I can't come forward, Schwartz. Fucking, I got kids. I'm fucking scared shitless, dude. Dude, people are sending me pictures of my kids with nooses around their necks. And, you know, the N word because my child is half black. Or, like, are you guys not seeing where I don't get the luxury of pretending that this racism doesn't exist? I don't get the luxury of pretending that they don't all tie in together. You have any idea how much hatred there was when I stuck up for Colin Kaepernick, but I didn't stuck up for that asshole whose name I'm not going to mention, who was dogfighting, killing dogs for entertainment. Dogs are made of love. But they're just like us. They learn what you teach them. They understand repetition. You change the rules all the time. They don't know what to do. They just know they're getting beaten. Why the hell would you beat a dog to teach it? I've never had to beat a dog. Never. I've trained both dogs and cats entirely with love. A lot of that's their fault because I go to sleep and somebody's cat who literally hates everyone is sleeping on top of me. Mind you, my personal opinion on this is because cats are assholes and they know I'm allergic to them. That last part's a joke. Dogs love me too, and kids love me too. And it's because they know that I'm not interested in doing bad stuff to them. The only thing that would ever make a child think that I would do bad stuff to them is if you tell them that I will. Why did most of these people who hate me now because I told the secrets they could have told in court and kept it completely not in public, not on Facebook, not on YouTube? It's the only places that I had to put those things. I told people, don't tell me anything that you wouldn't tell the police. And if the police won't listen, I'm going to post it in public. But then when I kept my word, they were angry. A lot of people didn't help me and weren't there while I was working on it. And, well, a lot of the other times, they're very disruptive and they don't understand that when my brain is going that fast, I need some peace and quiet. Like here, I've been able to sit down and relax quite a bit, believe it or not. But like I said earlier, I don't make videos unless I'm having a panic attack. So I'm going to have to travel low income, of course, so that I have a good internet connection, because otherwise it ends up getting in places. I get one, possibly 2 bars most. Since there were so many people there that were involved, and I already have all of the evidence up there, that's the thing, is that one symbol may encompass a shit ton of evidence. And I will be explaining the evidence as I'm pulling it out, and I have it up there already. I've been literally working on my mental health as best that I can without the resources that I'm supposed to have. You notice that I was supposed to go to that place in Scotts Bluff, and I wasn't able to go, and I was trying to let them know that, and I was also trying the whole time to find a way to go. Please help me, you know? But then after that, I, they didn't get a hold of me. They didn't answer my phone calls before or after. The one time that Jen Beebe got back a hold of me, like, she left a message on my answered machine, and then after that, nothing for 5 months. She was supposed to call me back in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's also documented here on my YouTube. What do you do when your so-called therapist, their 5 minutes turns into 5 months? The other thing is that evidence is there for everyone to see. Literally thousands of pieces of evidence, probably close to 10,000 screenshots, at least 3,000 those. There are still hundreds of phone calls that I still have recorded right here on this YouTube. And mind you, the ones that I posted up here were the cleanest. I mean, when I was able to record, see, when I wasn't able to record, I basically just had to listen and do what other people wanted. I know this. I understand people's patterns. If you don't do what they want, they will be unhappy with you. That is how neurotypical people think. But I was working hard to try to get the things done that I needed to as well. And the things that I needed to do were because of patterns. I see the patterns that work. I see the patterns that don't. And I see the catch-22 before it even gets there. The problem is, you're at that crossroads already. You're already at that crossroads. The crossroad, first one I took was to save lives. The second one was to save lives. Third one was to save lives. And I'm going to show you with evidence how and why. But the most important part is that I need you to understand why my superpower is a disability. What is my superpower? Can I lift heavy objects with my mind? No. Can I light matches with a single thought? No, I gotta, just like everyone else. Can I turn myself into a big green beast with my scientific and sculpting knowledge? I could make a suit or paint. I could make a suit that was pretty ultra realistic. I understand molding techniques and everything like that. I mean, I learned how to make all the things that I wanted, and I went and got all the jobs to do the things that I wanted to do since I was a little kid. You know, when I realized that there was a lot of people that I was locked up with that, you know, instead of being Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, it became the other kids that I lived with that were fucking great despite all the hell that we were going through. And those people aren't going to be in this story. This story will be just about the situation with Natalie, because that's what all of this over the last 3 years has been over. But it all started with a bunch of bullshit before over people's bad opinions. Now, when I tell you don't put certain drugs in me, don't put certain drugs in me. When I tell you there's a certain reaction that I had to them, it's because I have that certain reaction to them. And you can see time and again that I tell these people, do not put those drugs in me. I am allergic to them. And for each one of those, train, for each one of those that has adverse reactions, they're not going to take the time, and I know this from experience, to listen to me list off every single medication, especially when there are so many medications that And how can I even possibly remember them all? That's how many pills that I was on growing up. And my reaction to many of them medications as an adult are actually far worse because I have gone for so long without taking their life-threatening medications. What do their medications do? They make me want to kill myself, and that lasts for a pretty goddamn long while. They make me stupid. They fuck up my liver. They fuck up my brain. They control my emotions. My emotions don't need control. They're there for a reason. If I'm being attacked, I have to defend myself. I mean, you have four options, and two of them are taken away once you're in cuffs or situations like that. When you have to go to your creditors for help, because that's the way that the law works. Especially in a small town, you get bad officers. They all know each other. They're all friends with each other. Yeah, they're going to cover each other's asses, especially since they don't want to lose their job. Now, if their body camera was on at all times and you couldn't erase it, and there were people to investigate it immediately instead of you being falsely accused, falsely arrested, had tags used as an excuse to physically and mentally and financially abuse you. Like, we got to do something about this because it's happening to so many people. And you hear all of that talking that I've done, thousands of videos. That's because in most of those, I'm not writing it down because I can't write it down fast enough, and then I get frustrated because I can talk a lot faster than I can write. So then I come here, I make a video, and I make it public so that the world knows. The problem is that if I'm having a situation like this where I have to pay attention to every little detail and I have to try to remember exactly all of that, I have emotional markers. How did I feel at the time? How did I feel at the time? And that's what a lot of those symbols will mean as well. How did I feel? That is something that each and every one of you will connect with. I'm going to probably be able to get it done in about 30 minutes. If you guys want to watch somebody drawing swirlies, that's fine. I'm just going to do it to try to show you how fast my brain works because it's going to take about 27 hours. That's being on the liberal side because it'll probably take around 26, but it'll go over 26 hours. But that's also cutting a lot out because the amount that I am able to draw on there, and a lot of those thoughts, I have them for a moment, but I've got also all of the other thoughts that are attached to that thought. These are other events that were coinciding with this or had an effect on this event or things of that nature. And then I think about all of the stuff that affected those events that led to this event happening. But I've forgotten about this part right here and how important it is because I'm already on to 20 or 30 more forks in the road. There's also the fact that each one of those forks in the road shows a pattern and establishes a pattern, and also shows my reaction to different stimuli. And that is important as well. How you feel is as important as what you think. That is your First Amendment. How you feel is important, and people do not have the right to harm you for how you feel. Nobody does. But people harm me for assumptions of how I feel. And that's what people throw at me all the time. That's the slander, their assumptions. Meanwhile, the evidence shows otherwise. And no matter how honest I am, It doesn't make any difference. It literally got to the point where I literally lied out of desperation. I threatened to kill President Donald Trump, for shit's sake. This is somebody who, if you look back through my history, you look and see that I was always a peacemaker. You look at the stuff now, you'll start to understand that, yeah, I am a lot different for a reason, because being the peacemaker ended up being the person who got to see all of these people die, and to know all of these people's predators, and to know parts of their story that show how fucked up their life was and how they didn't deserve that. And this isn't a color thing. This is an America turns a blind eye thing. My favorite hero of the 20th century is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Do you know why? If you got that figured out, it's because he was a peaceful man. Although, I have to be honest, although that's my favorite part, and I wished that that was what ultimately got people motivated to end all of that fucking inhumane treatment. The truth is that by that point in time, the United States had more black people than it takes to make an effective coup. It takes 2 to 3% of the population to stage an effective coup. And back when the Black Panthers were formed, there were a lot of people who supported them as well. Their intent was to protect from these very same actions in the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, 2000s. Y2K was 20 years ago. Hard to believe. So I picked his speech types because it conjures memories in me of, well, what love is. But it's also an image of the fact that love doesn't always end happily. I mean, those of you who look at Jesus' story as well, is Jesus' story a happy ending? No. Is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s story a happy ending? No. Was Natalie Marie Bollinger's ending a happy ending? You know, here's the thing about Jesus and the thing about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I didn't know either of them. With Natalie, I knew a lot of her experiences because I'd gone through them and I knew how she felt. And although that is definitely not a happy ending, the end of her pain, I hope is, if her pain is as great as mine, I am thankful that she got someone to do that for her. The other one that I picked is literally my least favorite person of the 20th century. I picked Adolf Hitler because, first of all, his body movements and shit like that, it's scary as fuck. I mean, especially when you're conditioned with knowing what Hitler ordered and what he did. And German, it sounds fucking scary, doesn't it? And then he's screaming it. And that's the parts that we are shown. I've heard a lot of Hitler speeches where I'm going, are you sure this is Hitler? I mean, it's still German, so it still sounds like he's an asshole, but you know, it's a calm voice. And I suppose if it was German and I understood what he was saying, I might have different feelings about it, especially, you know, at that time. I mean, they were culturally brainwashed. Hitler's youth, the Lebensborn program. There were babies that were born when Hitler and all of them made a program for having babies born, and some of them got pretty old. Lebensborn, look it up. And then the Hitler Youth, you can find stuff about them all over the History Channel. Why did I pick Hitler? Because it fucking terrifies people. I want you guys to know what it feels like when you're doing that in my area. I'm a fucking sponge, dude. Like, if I'm around constant fucking negativity, yeah, I'm not going to be a happy fucking guy. I'm going to try to fix the situation and repair the situation or move away from the situation if that is not a possibility. But how much moving is too much fucking moving, especially, like, one of the things that you notice about autistic people, moving all the time is a bad idea. It's hard to make friends, and you constantly have to make friends everywhere that you go, and then they stab you in the back or they fucking die on you. I live Alicia, sorry, I got no teeth. I'm not in love with her, but I'm scared shitless. I have to die before she does. And she lives a very risky life. You have no idea how that is going to affect me when she dies, and I already know how it's going to affect me. Not seeing her and not talking to her, I'm fine with that too. But we need to get this shit out in the open first. I need to be able to face my accusers in court and show my evidence as well, instead of having my disabilities exploited by my very predators as an excuse for not allowing that. When I'm doing that Adolf Hitler thing, it's because I am trying to express to you anger at these things. Anger. Now, a lot of you go, well, then you're just acting. You're not really having emotions. No, I am having emotions. But my emotions are different than yours. And in order to try to get you from stopping the harm against me because you don't understand me, I have to act like you. I have to act like a neurotypical so that you can feel what it's like for us. Now, luckily, I didn't wait until these people were completely overloaded with everything before dumping it all on them. And I didn't put a whole bunch of pressure on them by letting them know, hey, you're going to go to jail and you're going to be harmed for the rest of your life if you're not able to get some help with this. You're going to be abused and hated for the rest of your life if you can't get someone to just be honest. And meanwhile, it is my right to face that person because of their crimes against me. The fact that I had to commit crimes in order to get a day in court because nobody wants to listen to a man. Autistic people must be retarded and schizophrenic. And no, our brains just work way more faster. You like that? Way more faster. Like for me, drawing it all down on that piece of paper and then explaining it all to you. And I'll be pointing at the piece of paper and showing you what means what and telling each piece of the story where it goes. And if you start from the beginning and you follow it to the end and you look at that evidence, I'll tell you even where the evidence is. I have to write it down so that it's organized. That is the best way to do it. And then since I can't write it fast enough, with actual words, I will speak it and also show the evidence as I'm speaking it. When I say those things in the Hitler speech voice, that's because I'm trying to explain to you something that is very scary and you need to understand it's scary. So I'm making you feel what it is that I'm feeling. I'm scared. I tried treating you how I want to be treated, but you made bad assumptions and people harmed me a lot over your assumptions. The meanness that I had to endure when I am mean to these people back, they don't fucking like it. But then again, they're not given the mentally ill tag. They're not entirely alone. By entirely alone, what I'm saying is that if you don't understand it and you're being an asshole, I am alone. If you're talking over me instead of listening, I am alone. If we're not standing together in solidarity, then I am alone. And I am absolutely talking in solidarity like Black Lives Matters. And I want you to take a look at that. There are black people. There are white people. There are males. There are females. There are Muslims. There are Christians. All taking part in this. Black Lives Matters. Black Lives Matters stands for unity. But the name is completely fucking racist. And a lot of the jargon that we hear because of the name, people trying to justify the fact that it's racist. See, that's the whole point of Black Lives Matters, that in-your-face wording. Black Lives Matters. Yes, they know that it's racist. Who's they? All of us. Me, you, the president, white people, black people. We all know it's racist. But we've also listened to racist people from the South for how many years tell us that it's about states' rights. It's about states' rights. So I don't see how people choosing a racist name like that to show y'all what you're doing. I'm absolutely okay with it because that's what I've been doing. Except just like most of these people with Black Lives Matters, they're being nicer than their predators. Black people are not out there straight up murdering a whole bunch of police officers and choking them to death. Seriously, do you think there is any way in hell that any of those police officers in riot gear, with the number of people that were there, could in any way, shape, form, or fashion win a fight if those people actually wanted to hurt those officers? One or two or three people against a solid line of shields isn't going to do squat. But when you got a whole bunch of dudes who are holding shields like this, and they're attached both here where they're holding on to it and here at the elbow, if you got 20 people that run up and grab those shields and literally just lift them up, you're going to fuck up their shoulder, they're going down, and the whole lineup is going down. That is the difference between the police, their blue line of bullshit, and these ragtag piddlywunk protesters. First of all, they don't want to get violent. They do not want violence. They're speaking out against violence. And because a few people choose to get violent, we want to blame all of them for that. All blacks must be violent. That's why all black lives matter. That is why Black Lives Matter right there. That is why that racist title is required, so that it's up in your face. I'm not going to pretend it's not racist. But at the same time, it's the exact same thing we've been hearing from the South. We hear that from racist people America-wide, and then they pretend they're not racist. They're pretending that they're not doing it. You know? They pretend that it's not because they're being racist. Kind of like they pretend that it's not because they have a hatred against homeless people, because that's what they've been taught. And most groups, statistically, based on victimization rates, most groups prey on the homeless. And the homeless comprise people of every single group, with the exception of the filthy fucking rich. And you know, there might be a couple of them who go out there and actually do pretend like you pretend all homeless are doing. Like, oh, they're just out there because they're lazy. They don't want to do nothing. I didn't lose my clothes. I just lost my shirt. So, the reason for explaining 20 something hours of long stories that all fit in together is because when I write it in the amount of time that I do, and then I point it out and explain it to you and show you the evidence, you'll realize how many thoughts can go through my head in such a quick amount of time. I mean, if I go through 26 hours, 27 hours almost, of explaining to you what I wrote down, literally wrote down, um, well, you'll understand how many thoughts I can actually have, how many things that I can recall in that period of time. Now, you're going to condense it and go, all right, well, let's say I'm able to do the whole thing in 30 minutes, right? And then you go, well, he was able to figure out fucking 26 hours of this story. He was able to recall that and write it down in 30 minutes. But in all actuality, it's only the fact that it's taking me 30 minutes to write it down. And each thing has its own tangent that goes off of it, but they're all related topics. And if I have it scheduled out, by the time I've gone through the first episode, you'll probably be able to understand most of everything after that. You'll understand what was involved. You just won't know the full story. And that's what each segment of video after that will be, is that section of the story that I wrote down. And by the end of it, y'all won't look at it and go, oh, dude, he probably fucking thinks that he's got aliens beaming rays into his head and fucking magic symbols. No, that's not it. It's a quick translation, best I can, so that I can show you how fast my brain works without having to write entire words. That's terribly inefficient. Now, kanji, that's symbolism. A tree is one painting. Some entire sentences are paintings. It's just a small, quick, basically stick man is the way you need to think of kanji. You know, like, let's say you are thinking about a briefcase. That briefcase is important. The direction that you're traveling is important. And part of what you're wearing is important. Let's say a hat. So draw your stick figure with a square next to it and an arm down and a little thing and a bill. You have just drawn a little stick man as quickly as possible and as simple as possible, and you're going to remember that that's a stick man. Now, if you explain to a whole bunch of people what that little stick man means, it's a placeholder for a longer story in some cases, and in some cases, some of those symbols are specifics that are in that story. And one thing that I was thinking about that to begin with is that the pictures that I have for everybody and everything, some of them are complicated pictures. Some of them are roses or butterflies or unicorns or like Alicia, for example. All right, when I think of Alicia, I think of a unicorn. The reason that I think of a unicorn is she's pretty, she's white, she loves horses, and she loves changing her hair all sorts of different colors. Now, my symbol for her before used to be a blue, and it's specifically on a black background. It's two blue eggs that are basically, it's like they're painted real quick in blue paint. So, I mean, let's say, for example, I wanted to draw that out. It would take me probably 45 hours to draw a unicorn. Okay, I could draw it picture perfect. I can see it in my mind. I have to cut a lot of corners when I draw pictures. I can literally sit there for 1,000 hours. I have to stop myself and force myself to only layer it 3 or 4 times, because each layer will get more and more complicated, more and more detailed. I'm able to zone out like that, but I have to have the right environment for it. A lot of these people who have been able to do these great and wonderful things, a lot of the things that people are telling me that can't be done, that have been done. And I'm like, yeah, you're telling me that I can't do that? No, it's been done. There is a way to do it. And matter of fact, you can see how it was done. It's not complicated. That part is that shape. That part is that shape. They fit together like this. But also because I constantly have so many thoughts in my head. If you scratch chalkboard, every single thought that I have in my head is important. And you scratch a chalkboard, and it's like having a whole bunch of trains in a train yard, and they're all moving, and then you have an earthquake. It's going to take you a while to clean up the fucking mess. The more overwhelmed I am with details and all of these details attached to each other. Like let's say you got attacked once by officers. All right, you have one situation where you're attacked by officers, and you have to spend 2 whole years just to get a court date from the date that you were able to fill out your paperwork, if you were allowed to fill out the paperwork, because although it's your right, that doesn't mean they're going to allow you. That's why you need somebody to go in with you. Going in to have to make a report to Scott DaCosta about all of the many people who have called me and threatened me and pranked me, and how they are connected to these fucked up situations that I never wanted to be in. Most of these were because I was a good man. Actually, all of them were because I was a good man. But yeah, I did some fucked up shit out of desperation, and I also admitted why, and I also admitted it. I made sure that it was documented. And then they were able to destroy it. And I was told it can never be destroyed if it's on the internet. So all I need to do with a lot of this stuff is to get a lawyer to unseal it. Not for the intent and purpose of showing the public, but for the intent and purpose of having an honest court date. Because if somebody is assaulted by the police and they sue them and they want to take it through the entire process instead of settling out of court, I mean, you're talking about years of your life for just one situation. Meanwhile, you're scared the whole time. Now imagine that you can be called mentally ill and police all over in solidarity can harm you. Because here's the thing. If a police officer does something bad, he can harm you and put it on your record that is seen everywhere. Now, if a Nazi puts on your record in Germany back in the day, and other Nazis see that because, well, they're privy to it, they can bring it up on a computer screen at a moment's notice from anywhere in Germany or France or anywhere else that they have troops, any of their conquered territories. Control of information, that is extremely important, and that is one of the things that is used as a definite reminder that humans can be manipulated easily and their patterns are easily established. You know what to say to make somebody hate someone else. You know what the most terrible things are that you can accuse someone of, and if you are hurt enough, you might do some of those mean things so that they hurt. And that's the thing, is that I have lived with people who have these patterns my entire life. And in order for me to get hurt, I actually have to exhibit these patterns? Are you fucking kidding me? The cops won't write it down when I make a 911 report. They didn't do it with Michael Beard. They didn't do it with Cody Selhorst. They didn't do it in, well, any of these 911 calls. In all of these 911 calls where other people called me in, I should have been allowed to give my statement without fear of being harmed for being honest before I'm finished. Or without having to deal with them being able to cover up for the wrongdoing of their fellow officers because they turn off the body cameras. We have seen too many people trained by their fellow officers in how to get away with things when they assume someone's guilt. They're like, I just had this feeling. And then you went out of your way to try to pull out anything that you could use to frame him because you had no clue who actually fucking did it. Y'all are fucking crazy. Now, the worst part is, let's say that the guy that you are trying to make a report about is Heinrich Himmler, one of the top Nazis, and you want to turn this in that Heinrich Himmler is killing Jews. And no matter who you turn that into, chances are pretty good they're going to hand that to Heinrich Himmler and let him have the choice. I did something illegal and this little fucking pipsqueak thinks he's going to tell on me. Holy shit. Well, their buddies are the ones that you have to turn this stuff into. If they're buddies with a guy who's harboring a lot of racist feelings and emotions, and he doesn't express that, but he sees an opportunity to kill somebody who's black, well, you still think he's a nice guy. With me, when I ultimately was able to get anything done as far as getting an actual court date that I could go to after January, because mind you, January, I didn't have to do anything wrong. They thought I killed Natalie, and whatever it took to frame me for that, or whatever it took to prevent me from having a safe place where I wouldn't be victimized by the public, which only happened because of the news, things would have been a lot different. And there is so much to it because that's not everything that happened. After Natalie, after those illegal actions in Clearview in 2018, January, before they found Natalie's killer, they're the ones who broke the law. In January of 2018, when I was assaulted, and I'm really trying to hold it in right here. I really am. I mean, I am. Black people aren't the only people that have to be afraid of police. We all know this. The point of Black Lives Matters with that racist title that is clearly racist to all of us. The reason that there are so many people defending that and pretending that it's not racist is because that's how they're treated. They are giving you equality. They are treating you equally. They tried treating you how they wanted to be treated. And that didn't matter to you because you have bad assumptions and bad bias. You don't want to admit that you're a racist or that you harbor those feelings or that you just simply don't know. I'm sorry, I'm scared of black people because all I ever saw was black people on TV shooting each other and it scared the shit out of me. But also, I watch a lot of action thrillers. Is that me? No. But with a lot of people, it is stuff as simple as that. Is that really the black society that we want to portray? And is that really how black society is? No. Black people aren't a bunch of fucking mindless animals running around shooting people and fucking snorting coke. But that's the narrative that we're fed. We're fed that narrative by the media and also by a bunch of racist assholes. Whereas really, if we had smaller communities and we said, fuck it, leave me alone. Let me grow my food and live in peace. And so, since all of that actually goes together with the story between me and Natalie as well, and all of these courts, you're going to be able to look back on all of these times where I didn't have it written down with that ledger to follow, where it's just a whole bunch of the thoughts, but it's not along a congruent timeline because, well, there's a bunch of stuff that's fucking attached to it. Anyway, a lot of the reason that I did that instead of grab the newspaper is because or grab the paper to write it down because I was having a lot of anxiety because I didn't bring any paper here. I'm an artist and I didn't bring any paper here. Everything was written on it and it's important, and writing over it is just going to make it 10 times more confusing even for me. So I gotta go up to the place up there. And also, while I've got all of that evidence next to me and I can see it, I can see in a bag earlier today, I completely forgot about the probably close to 100 business cards or more that I have from these situations, people's names and numbers on them, specifically police and police and therapists and caseworkers that all go to show that I was trying. I'm sorry for going off on this big long rant. It's 57 minutes long. But the reason I started making this video is because, like all of my videos, because I'm having a panic. But also, most of the stuff that I said that I'd show, I showed. And the stuff that I didn't get around to, I will write it down in that. Because there's a lot of stuff that I showed so much, I can't remember what I did and didn't. And there's so much more. Y'all be safe and good night. And those of you who've been coming on here and frequently actually interacting with me instead of, like most of these places, people didn't interact with me. And it was also that their interactions with each other were very negative. When I'm screaming, you get to hear how scary that is. You're like, that's the scariest thing I've ever seen. Well, imagine that in person. And in some of these situations, I want you to imagine at least 2 and up to 5, 6 at one time doing that. I think at Sally Treon's, there was probably 8 or 9 people there all at once. Not all 8 or 9 were talking all at once, but I can only catch one of them at a time, and not if they're both speaking at the same time. I can't separate one voice from the other. They do both sound different. They mesh together. I can't go, all right, here's Danielle, and she's got a very soft and sweet voice, even when she has her voice at the same decibels as Fred. And Fred has a very deep, manly voice. And you put those both together, and I can't hear either one of you. And nearly everywhere that I've gone, it's been like that. I have too many thoughts in my head at one time, according to most of you. No, I don't need to be drugged to make me stupid. I shouldn't be punished because I have a superior mind. And I don't mean superior as in I am better than you in every way, shape, or form, because that's not true. Some of you have superior bodies to mine. Some of you have superior brains to mine. And those of you who have superior brains to mine are probably not heard. Most of the people that I've met that are as intelligent as me or more intelligent, and usually about 30 or 40 IQ points below my intelligence, because that's still considered genius, they're really treated like crap and not really heard. And then you put all of these other factors that are people's bias over whether or not you're legally allowed to be heard. No, that's not how it works. Your bias is not what the law is written on. What the law says and the way that you actually interpret it with your bias are completely different. And that's the point that needs to be shown here. A lot of people are racist and don't like black people because that's what they were taught. But also, most people hate the homeless because that's what they're taught, or they hold some animosity towards the homeless. We're not allowed to hate all black people because one black people did us wrong, right? We're not allowed to hate all police officers because one officer did us wrong, right? But look at the homeless people. Now you've had a whole bunch of situations where this is just a human being, and then you have one scenario where something fucked up happens. Like, let's say you have a homeless person that goes in there and steals your tip jar in Starbucks, and then all of a sudden you have the rule of no big backpacks. Somebody homeless came in and stole your tip jar. And then you have to consider the fact that if you don't know who stole your tip jar, the first people you're going to look at in the room are the people who you have been taught growing up are the thieves. And then you look at all of those people and you go, all right, well, if I falsely accuse somebody, who am I going to get in trouble if I do that with? And also, according to the stories that I've heard, who is the most likely culprit? And between a black person who is dressed nicely and reading a newspaper and a person who is wrinkled up with a backpack, yeah, you're gonna you're gonna assume it's the homeless person or one of the homeless people. And although you're not gonna kick out every black person if it's a black person who stole it or a black person that you think stole it, you're not gonna prevent all black people from coming into your store, are you? But you will do that with the homeless. And because you don't want to seem like you're being prejudiced against the homeless, you don't say, oh, no homeless people allowed. It's no big backpacks. So you got a backpack that has everything that you need to survive in. And if you have special needs, you might be carrying more than most. You might be carrying extra weight. And this is all stuff that factors in to the poor having their lives destroyed and how it makes it nearly impossible to get up and out. I mean, you guys, having to carry stuff back breaking for, let's say 8 hours. And in that 8 hours, you pick up 200 bundles of shingles and do a bunch of stuff on the roof. You've picked up those 200 bundles of shingles, right? But you were able to put them down. With a backpack, you got to walk 6 miles to the nearest service. You're not there in 5 minutes. Also, the average pace of most of us homeless people without a backpack is about 15 miles an hour, like most of you. Or not 15 miles an hour, I'm sorry. A mile every 15 minutes, just like most of you. But if you've got a backpack, that weighs down on you heavily and quickly. And it does actually take you longer to get to these places. And you are actually marching with that damn thing 8 hours a day. Is that true? No. No, it's longer than 8 hours a day. You're not just stuck with that backpack while you're at work. Like you're stuck with shingles while you're at work. With those shingles, I got 8 hours. I might have a 12-hour shift. But with that backpack, you have it at all points in time, and you are targeted for having it. You are also targeted for using its contents, such as that sleeping bag. Being made homeless over a crime that I didn't commit made me a victim. And I had already been made a victim over slander in Virginia. Thank you very much, Alicia Bollinger and Maddie Boa, for that. Here's what I want, Maddie Boa. Here's what I want, Alicia Bollinger. And this is what's all going to be written down. All I want is to face my accusers, and that's the two of you. We already know what Natalie had to say. Now we need to hear your words. And I do mean we. I'm being targeted by a whole lot of people who hate me because they believe I did things that I didn't. And at no point in time was it ever acceptable to commit any crimes against me without a court date where I could face my accuser and show evidence. Without those things, everything that these people did was illegal. Everything that all of these courts did was illegal. And the fact that the things they told me they couldn't do for me, they did for my predators, shows that either A, they lied to me, or B, they did something illegal. And also, a lot of the reason for those symbols is because, and needing to explain it, is because any evidence that I can't produce, I can tell you where it's at. And if we can get a judge to start requisitioning that stuff, then I can prove all of it. But it all starts with getting people to speak out. Now, the other thing is because of the sheer quantity of violence and things that people told me are actually going on in their lives, and also the mandated reporter thing, and the fact that I have to do my stuff. Plus, I do need to mandated report all of this shit. But what happens when you try to turn it into who it says to turn it into, and you can't? Either they want you to drive all the way to Tennessee to do that, or all the way to wherever, and you don't have the money to go there. What are you going to do? And what do you do when you're being victimized where you're at because you can't get those people into court because you can't afford to go there? What if those people are harming you for something that you didn't do, but the person that you're accused of doing it to won't talk to you, won't listen to the fact that you're being harmed, and you don't get the opportunity to explain it? That's the thing. All of these predators, their advice to her was for her to ignore me. No, that is the wrong thing to do. That's why I was trying to get a hold of the police. I'm being harmed. You need to not just tell me that I need to man up and take it. That is so fucked up. You're going to tell a woman that. I need to just man up and take abuse for a crime that I didn't commit, while the person that I supposedly committed this crime to isn't going to put a stop to it, but also isn't going to take you to court for what you're being accused of. What did Natalie take me to court for? Stalking and harassment. Did I harass her? Fuck yes. Did I stalk her? No. What was I trying to take her to court for? Same thing, except a lot more people, because she got help and I didn't. And while she was having these people harm me by pretending that I would do things, because if you look through all of this, you will notice I didn't do any of this terrible shit that these other people are harming me for. Her own words say that it was never about sex, at least not for me. Her own words. And y'all are like, you're obsessed, you're infatuated, you need to let it go. I have court on the 18th, where I have to face some of my abusers and some people who made empty promises, and I need to get it out in the open or get it recorded by the courts and have it forced to do that. Because without them being forced to do their jobs, they're not going to do them. And innocent people are going to suffer, and I am innocent. Now, am I innocent of everything? No, I'm not. I just told you there are crimes that I literally committed because that is the only way to get anyone to pay any attention as far as law enforcement goes. And every single time, I was hoping they had their body cameras on because every single time I was trying to explain to them what was going on. And the problem is when the police officer, and you've seen those videos where they went to the 23 different precincts to try to get a piece of paper so they could write it down and turn in that officer. And look at how many times that dude was arrested. Look at how many times, if you look at the situation with Zaid Atkinson, and then you look at how the undercover guy for the news that walked into these police stations was treated. Yeah, these undercover people who walked into the police stations to turn it in were treated a lot worse. But also, what is it that I've been saying since day one that I needed? Someone there in person and the ability to record it. And what did they have in order to show that that was the truth? The things that I was asking for. See, first of all, having the camera records the fact that they do those things. And having someone there in person, especially if they're with a news crew, will help you to not get arrested. Now, we've noticed recently that that doesn't mean that you're immune. How many reporters have been shot by police with rubber bullets or arrested since all of this started? And who is it that's getting violent? Fuck, I hate lighters.